Another U.S. bank has just closed down. And this is just the start because according to the FDIC, they are saying that there's 60 U.S. banks on their what they call a problem list. Yeah, it's a huge issue. But this may just be the beginning because we're also hearing rumors and many reports that workers at JPMorgan Chase are considering unionizing and potentially walking off the job in fight for better pay. I want to break down what's going on and how many people could be impacted. Right now, we know about 82 million people is what JP Morgan serves. That means we have 80 plus million people that could be struggling to get their money out of a bank for many reasons. I'll break all this down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. Takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So before we get to the big news on JP Morgan and how workers are threatening to walk off the job, we need to address what just happened the other day. Look at this. It says bank abruptly shut down by U.S. authorities in first bank failure of 2025. This was only 24 days in to the new year. Okay, let's look at this. It says U.S. regulators have abruptly shut down a bank in Illinois in the first bank failure of 2025. It says FDIC says the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation has closed Pulaski Savings Bank. It says the FDIC has been appointed as the receiver and has transferred all deposit accounts and most of the bank's assets to Millennium Bank. Goes on to say the FDIC says it will have to pay out about $28.5 million from its deposit insurance fund to cover the cost of the failure, pointing to suspected fraud as the primary factor driving the expense. Okay. Now, this is troubling, this is concerning to say the least, that another bank has failed. Now, this wasn't the biggest bank, okay? Don't worry about that, but it's what FDIC says after that, okay? Look at this. It says in December, the FDIC said 68 American banks are on its problem list, meaning the firms are experiencing financial, operational, and managerial weaknesses that could reasonably threaten their soundness if unresolved. It says the U.S. witnessed 2 bank failures last year, starting with the closure of Republic First Bank in April, which had $6 billion in assets and $4 billion in deposits. Then followed the First National Bank in Lindsay, Oklahoma, which was closed in October with about $107.8 million in assets and $97.5 million in deposits. Okay. So, we now know that the first bank has closed down in 2025. There are 68 other American banks on this problems list, but it comes down to what is going on at JP Morgan. Okay? I want to read you a few things. Look at this right here. It says JP Morgan's 5-day office return sparks union talks among employees. That's just from 5 days ago. But look at this right here. Okay? It says JP Morgan faces internal revolt over return to office mandate. Now talk of a Wells Fargo style labor union is reportedly spreading. I want to read a little bit of that article to you in just a moment. Okay? But this is the other reason why. There's now a return to office mandate. Okay. But it says JP Morgan Chase workers grouse over measly bonuses, 2% pay bumps as bank reels in record $58.5 billion in profits. Yeah. I want to read you a comment really quick. Okay? Listen to this. This person wrote and then says, and I quote, "This 2% increase doesn't pay for anything. Inflation is higher than that. Currently, inflation is 2.9%. This is why more of us are considering forming a union or just walking off the job to demand higher pay and more respect. The company did billions in profit last year. They can afford a better increase than what we got. Keep in mind, JPMorgan Chase serves more than 82 million consumers. They also have 6.4 million small businesses that they are serving. Okay? But again, I want to read you some of this article right here. Now, pulled up on my phone. I want to read a little bit of this to you so that you understand what they're looking at doing. Okay? What did Wells Fargo do? And this is why some are saying it's concerning, because what Wells Fargo did is they were able to unionize certain locations. Listen to this. It says more than a year ago, Wells Fargo management suffered a blow when staff at an Albuquerque branch of the fourth largest U.S. lender by assets joined the Communications Workers of America Guild in a historic vote. The unionization push has since spread to nearly 24 branches across the country, with official collective wage bargaining launched in November. It says the private exploratory talks at JPMorgan follow last week's announcement that the financial giant led by Jamie Dimon would completely kill off hybrid work wherever its office buildings could accommodate the full return of staff. It says, should the return to office push succeed, JPMorgan would be the second major mega cap corporation after Amazon to institute a strict office mandate against the wishes of many of its staff. While some advocates see such measures as a return to the norm, the explicit threat that dissenters should leave spark speculation. The ulterior motive is laying off employees through the back door. That's the other concern, that this right here could be a disguise to just lay off employees, potentially hundreds or thousands of employees. Yeah. Right now, here's what we know. Because employees are being told to return to work, right, they're a little bit upset. But if they were upset and the company made billions of dollars, and this is the thinking, why wouldn't we just get a little bit of bigger bonus to come back to the office? Why are we being told that you're going to get a 2% pay increase, and then on top of that, you have to return to the office? Many people don't want to. There's a thing that says the return to office mandate is explicitly targeting mass headcount reductions. Listen to this as well. Okay, I want to read this to you. One of the things that we're seeing right now, okay, is more and more companies are turning away from hybrid work. They want their workers back, mainly so that they can see them, that they can monitor what their employees are doing, and their employees are just working for them, not working for multiple companies. Okay, listen to this. It says hybrid work is proving to be a thorny issue for financial giants. On the one hand, Wall Street is an industry where the most important assets are a bank's human capital. Aggravate staff too much, and management could not only lose experienced bankers, those bankers could end up taking their Rolodex of trusted clients to a direct competitor. Okay. With that said, here's the concern. If JPMorgan employees decide they want to unionize in certain locations, they could do exactly what Wells Fargo did and Wells Fargo workers did just recently. That caused a lot of somewhat panic, caused a lot of concern amongst consumers as to whether or not their money was safe. Not necessarily that the worker's going to steal their money and run off with it. That wasn't the issue. The issue was, what if that specific location decides to unionize, and then that specific location decides to strike? Well, what if there's no workers at that location? For instance, let's say all the locations in Albuquerque are now closed because they have no employees in the building to work. All the employees are outside with picketing signs. What happens then? What if you need cash? What if you need to send a wire transfer? Right? What if you need a cashier's check? You couldn't go into the bank because it's locked. There's no employees there. So that's the concern right now, is that, yes, JPMorgan, it's a big company, right? Has a lot of locations, but what if your city only has one JPMorgan? That's what many cities are now offering. It's what many cities have. Just one. Or you got to drive 30 miles down the highway to go to the next city where they have a JPMorgan that hopefully isn't being unionized. That's the concern. And again, I'm saying this is a concern from a consumer standpoint, but think about that from the banker standpoint, from JPMorgan, from Jamie Dimon, that okay, if this group decides to unionize and potentially walks off the job, that location is closed. Guess what's likely going to happen? The consumers that go to that specific location are probably going to go to a different location, and there will be a bank run on other locations, and they'll take their money elsewhere. That's the concern, that we are about to see a bank run simply because these employees are threatening a Wells Fargo style unionization. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but all I can tell you right now is it's a little bit concerning that the largest bank in the United States is now facing this potential threat. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.